Shabbat Shalom, YouTube. There's weirdness here, good weirdness, because there's actually people here. So if you see me looking past the camera, it's because there's real life people other than chickens here, which is usually who shows up for this. But it is Sukkot. It is the second mundane Shabbat, Saturday in Sukkot, and as such, we have esteemed guests, aka extended family, here with us. And so, yeah, they're looking at me right now. It's kind of weird, but we'll figure it out. Yeah, go ahead and turn around. That'd be great. Genesis 22. There was, I'm told, some fellowshipping until about 3 o'clock in the a.m. From certain parties, and I was not one of those fellowshippers till 3 a.m. but my wife was, which is going to make this Shabbat very interesting, especially since we need to do a little bit of traveling to go link up with some other saints. So this should be fun. Is everybody turning your Bibles to page 20? We made it real far. All right, guys, we're in the scriptures. You guys are familiar with this. Play along in the home game. Whatever version you like, go with it. You guys know what I like. All right, 22. And it came to be after these events that Elohim tried Abraham and said to him, Abraham, and he said, Here I am. Now, we talked about this last week a little bit, that Yah showed up at Abram's tent and was like, dude, we need to talk. And Abraham was like, hey, man, can I wash your feet? Can I get you a drink? You hungry? You want to hang out? What's going on? Now, I don't remember if I mentioned this last week or not, but see, the Father tells Moshe, no man can look upon his face and live. So who was it that Abraham was walking with? Yeshua. The Elohim, the plurality. So, says me. But I think that's really cool, and that's something that we've been discussing a lot this week, is that Yeshua shows up in the Old Testament time and time and time and time again, and that he is the temporal manifestation of the Most High Yah here on earth. Hayah. Every time, brother. Every time I say Hayah, and I don't mean to be facetious, but I think karate. And the Father knows our hearts. That's the upside here. The Father knows our hearts. The rebuke was, it's okay, brother. You're talking to a ladder. Because, the phone is on a ladder. Behind the scenes. It's a super high production value here. So, it's cool that when people walk and talk with Yeshua, talk with Yah, they are talking with Yeshua, says me, or at least that's my belief, because the Father tells Moshe, dude, you can't look at my face and not be consumed. Like, you will die. So, we could read this as 22, the first verse, and it came to be after these events that Elohim tried Abraham and said to him, Abraham, that Yeshua tried Abraham and said to him, Abraham. Exclamation point. Yo, Abraham. And he said, here I am, God. What's up? And he said, take your son now, your only son Isaac. Your only son Isaac. We talked about this last week as well, because Isaac is not Abraham's only son. It is the only son ordained by the Father, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, because Ishmael was begat. Hashtag go team. Ishmael was begat by, come on, brain, Abraham and Hagar, right? But Ishmael is the illegitimate son. And he's pieced out now. He's going on his wilderness journey to go find himself like some dirty hippie up in Taos, New Mexico. So now the Father, now that Ishmael's out of the picture, becoming the foundation of Islam, whole nother story for another time. Yah comes to Isaac and says, take your son now, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah, and offer him there as an ascending offering on one of the mountains which I command you. Take your kid, build a fire, burn your child as an offering. Whoa, God, I thought we were just friends. This S is crazy. I don't think so. I mean, that's what I'd say. Anybody out there in the peanut gallery, you guys agree with that? We talked about that yesterday. If the father came to me and said, you need to take Harlan up here in the woods and build an altar, bro, talk about a test of faith. Especially after waiting 100 years to get your son. And the father says, don't worry, man, I'll build a nation out of you. And your wife literally falls on her face laughing and says, am I supposed to have pleasure in my old age? I'm past the time of a woman. How am I supposed to have a kid? And then the father rebukes her and says, hey, dude, you don't think I can do this? And she stops laughing real quick. Like, aha, you're correct. All right, so now Abraham has got to take Isaac up onto this mountain and sacrifice him as an ascending offering. That's a burnt offering because the smoke ascends to the sky. And all right, this next part, here's the lesson here. And Abraham rose early in the morning and saddled his donkey and took 2 of his young men with him and Isaac his son. And he split wood for the offering and arose and went to the place which Elohim had commanded him. We see with the Noahic covenant, when the father establishes the Noahic covenant, that it literally says, and Noah did all that God asked him, and he was found righteous. It doesn't say, and Noah thought about it. Noah took a poll on Facebook. Noah talked to his mom about it. No, it says Noah did all that the father commanded him, and it was counted as righteousness. So here we see Abraham. God says, the Lord says, hey, get your son, go up on this mountain, make a burnt offering. The very next sentence is, and Abraham rose early. He got up early. All right, we're going. I don't think he probably got much sleep that night.
I was going to say that he probably didn't sleep a lot.
Yeah, he probably only got 3 hours of sleep because he was fellowshipping until 3 o'clock in the morning. Not my guess, but you know, if it was me, I would have already been up. I would have rose from my tent early because I hadn't slept at all, thinking about taking my son up to a mountain to go sacrifice him. Coffee, once again, provided by Millard and Milady, who are in our very midst as we speak. Sir and madam, I'm being saluted with coffee cups, which is cool. All right. And he split the wood for the ascending offering and arose and went to the place which Elohim had commanded him. And on the 3rd day, Abraham lifted his eyes and saw the place from a distance. So Abraham said to his young men, stay here with the donkey while the boy and I go over there and worship and come back to you. And Abraham took the wood of the ascending offering and laid it on Isaac his son. And he took the fire in his hand and a knife, and the 2 of them went together. And Isaac spoke to Abraham, his father, and said, my father. And he said, here I am, my son. And he said, see the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for an ascending offering? Isaac's starting to figure out, this stuff is not kosher. What's going on? It's just you, me, and some wood and a fire. We're missing something here. And Abraham said, my son, Elohim does provide for himself the lamb for an ascending offering. And the 2 of them went together. That's a very interesting phraseology because it's well established at this point that Isaac came from where? God. Provision and blessing of the Father. And we talked about last week as well how fertility is the domain of the Father. And I think that's one of the reasons why we are not just encouraged but told repeatedly over and over and over again, don't do this pagan idolatry bull crap. Because most of that revolves around fertility. And the Father makes it clear in his word that fertility is his domain. There's lots of people who are coming to the way, coming to Torah, who have been unable to get pregnant, trying to get pregnant. They come to the way, they start keeping the Torah, keeping the commandments, and then miraculously pregnant. And over and over again, the story of our Messiah starts with a miraculous pregnancy. So the Father establishes repeatedly that fertility is his. And so here, when Abraham says that the Father provided the lamb for the sacrifice, he literally provided the lamb for the sacrifice because we wouldn't have Isaac if it wasn't for the intercession of the Most High Yah and Abram and Sarai. So 22:9, and they came to the place which Elohim had commanded him, and Abraham built a slaughter place there and placed the wood in order. And he bound Isaac his son and laid him on the slaughter place upon the wood. And Abraham stretched out his hand and took the knife to slay his son. Whew. Pause. This requires coffee. See, y'all out there in YouTube land don't understand that I do this from like the top of my head with... This is my first cup of coffee. And I do that the same reason when we do talks on YouTube about gear reviews and philosophy and stuff like that, is that just to get the immediate thoughts off the top of your heads. It's not, I don't think about this too much. I just go where it takes me. So Isaac's laid out, he's bound up, he's got cordwood stacked around him. Abraham's got his knife, he's reaching out with his knife, probably something like this, coming at him. 11. But the messenger of Yahweh called to him from the heavens and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, Here I am. And he said, Do not lay your hand on the boy, nor touch him. For now I know that you fear Elohim, seeing you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. Where have we seen that before? John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. Aha. But see, it's important to know you don't need the Old Testament at all. It has nothing to do with the New Testament whatsoever. Okay, we're just going to go to church and we're going to read the 4 Gospels. They're throwing things at me now. Is that a bucket of rotten tomatoes? No. Oh, no, it's not a bucket of rotten tomatoes. Where have we seen this before? Oh, I know. Our Messiah. So once again, we have the prophecy of the Old Testament fulfilled in the New Testament. It's a mirror reflection. We were talking about this earlier in the week as well. How we live, we experience time as a straight line, but really we are cyclical people. Things go in circles. What we conceive as a straight line of time is actually just the arc of the curve of time in this cycle, but we have such a short lifespan, we experience so little of it that we don't actually see the arc of time. It just looks like just a little bit of a straight line that we can barely see the curvature of. And we might be able to discern at some point a little bit of the arc of our life. But to get the whole big picture, interestingly enough, hey, it's in here. And if you read all of it, if you don't start here, if you actually read all this part and don't just start here, you find out quite a bit about, oh, hey, the New Testament is actually the Old Testament made flesh. Literally made flesh. But you don't need any of that. You just go to church on Sunday and your pastor will tell you, like, we're going to string 3 verses together and talk about how you probably shouldn't masturbate because that's bad. Thanks, dude. All right. So Abraham has got Isaac laid out. I'm being laughed at. Abraham has got Isaac laid out, right? He's ready to cut his son. And the messenger of Yahweh, Abraham, Abraham. I bet you the whole earth shook at that point, right? Trees were swaying. Do not lay your hand on the boy nor touch him, for now I know that you fear Elohim, seeing you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me, capital M, from the Lord, from Yahweh. 13. And Abraham lifted his eyes and looked and saw behind him a ram caught in a bush by its horn. Oh, didn't Abraham just say, don't worry, the Father will provide the sacrifice? Okay. Many fulfillments. I mean, in the moment, that's a huge fulfillment. I don't have to kill my kid. There's a ram here. Thanks, God. That's awesome. All right, so he sees this ram caught in a bush by its horns, and Abraham went and took the ram and offered it up for an ascending offering instead of his son. And Abraham called the name of the place Yahweh Yireh. And it was said to this day, on the mountains Yahweh provides. Do any of you have anything other than Yireh there? Y-I-R-E-H. Okay, you're in scriptures as well? That's cool. I was just wondering if there was like, because usually it has a footnote that says Yireh means this. But the Hebrew people were pretty literal, so it means on the mountain Yahweh provides. So my guess would be Yireh means provision, because he provided a ram to not have to, slaughter your son as an ascending offering.
The New King James says instead of Yahweh Yireh, the Lord will provide.
The Lord will provide. Okay. Shut up, chicken. Okay. And 15. And the messenger of Yahweh called to Abraham a second time from the heavens and said, by myself I have sworn, declares Yahweh, because you have done this and not withheld your son, your only son, that I shall certainly bless you, and I shall certainly increase your seed as the stars of the heavens, and as the sand which is on the seashore, and let your seed possess the gate of their enemies. Okay. We're going to pause right there for like 60 seconds because there's a lot right there. Okay. Because you have not withheld your son, your only son, that I shall certainly bless you. Stop. Obedience brings blessing. That is one of the core tenets of the Old Testament. Obedience brings blessing. You should probably go kick that chicken off of the bucket of food. Yeah, it's real life around here. This is happening. It's happening. So obedience brings blessing. It's one of the things we talk about constantly around here. Why do we talk about it constantly? Because it shows up constantly in the Old Testament. You do what the Father tells you to do and you are blessed. You shall certainly increase your seed. Okay, we were talking yesterday in the truck, driving around, how if you look at these people that are called righteous in the Old Testament, that they're not necessarily poor. Now, they're not Joel Osteen health and wealth, prosperity gospel. Abraham was not flying around in a 747. We need to go bless the people of Africa. That's not what Abraham was trying to do. But even when Abraham lies that Sarah is his sister, Abimelech gets jammed up. The father comes to him in a vision and says, dude, don't. That's his wife, not his sister. Abimelech comes to Abraham, apologizes to Abraham, even though Abraham's the one who lied and screwed up, and blesses him. He tithes to him and says, dude, please, I don't want any problems with you. Then they create a covenant. Abimelech gives Abraham part of Canaan and a well and herds and all this stuff just to get Abraham off his back, because there was inherent power in Abraham, because he was blessed through the Father, because he was found righteous. So obedience brings blessing. Then increase your seed. We just talked about how fertility is a big part of what the Father does. It's a covenant between us and the Father absolutely owns that. That is his. He does not let anybody else have any dominion over that, and we're told repeatedly that the Father is a jealous God. He's jealous for us, and he does not like us worshiping, graven images or idols or anything else like that have anything to do with fertility, because it's his. So in order to have your seed increased, you need to be right with the Lord. That sounds weird, but it's right here in the book. All right. Then, the number of the stars of the heavens. We've talked about this before. There are 600,000 visible stars in the night sky. There were 600,000 military-aged men that came out of Mitzrayim when they left Egypt and they went into the wilderness. There were 600,000 men of fighting age after they got into the Promised Land. Not when they got into the Promised Land, but after they got into the Promised Land. So I have a theory that there will be 600,000 Torah-observant military-aged males when Yeshua comes back. Can't prove it. I just think that the Father likes the number 600,000. And when he moves his people, he tends to use them in units of 600,000. So, what verse is that, T? I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's not in there, but it's just a sneaky suspicion that I have. Okay. And then let your seed possess the gate of their enemies. What is Deuteronomy? The second telling before they go across the Jordan. Moshe can't go with him because he transgressed the will of the Father, and he took credit for snapping that rock in half with Aaron's rod and bringing forth water. So God says, you're not going. You're staying here. Moshe says, you won't have me with you to guide you guys like I've been doing the last 40 years. Let's have a talk before you go across the river. Here's the things you need to remember. One of those things is when you go in to displace the people that are in the land, and when you go in to take that land, when you're drinking the wine that you didn't press, when you're eating the fruit that you didn't grow, when you're living in the houses you didn't build, you will give thanks to Yahweh. Okay, so that is in Deuteronomy, which is 4 books forward to where we are right now, when they go in to possess the promised land. Kitetse, when you go. All right, well, right here, Abraham is being told that I shall certainly bless you and let your seed possess the gates of their enemies. Okay, so that in of itself is fulfillment of prophecy. Moving on, 18. And in your seed all the nations of the earth shall be blessed, because you have obeyed my voice. Then Abraham returned to his young men, and they rose up and went together to Beersheba. And Abraham dwelt at Beersheba. And it came to be after these events that it was reported to Abraham, saying, See, Milcah, too, has borne children to your brother Nahor. It's funny how, like, where the breaks in the chapters are. Because I would think, okay, stop, that's a chapter. There's my lord is over here running around doing battle with chickens. Feel free to shoot him.
I might.
It's okay. It's okay, particularly the ones that... That one needs to go. All right. Genesis 22, verse 21. Utz, his firstborn, and Buz, his brother, and Kemuel, the father of Aram, and Kesed, these sound like begets, and Hazo, and Pildash, and Jidlaph, and Bethuel brought forth Ribkah, and these 8 Milcah bore to Nahor, Abram's brother. And his concubine, whose name was Raumah, bore Tebah, and Gaham, and Tehash, and Maacah. Cool story, bro. 23. And Sarah lived 127 years, the years of the life of Sarah. Interesting, because didn't the father say, no more will your days number more than 120? Women tend to live longer than men anyway, because we do dumb things like climb trees with chainsaws and ride fast motorcycles and live on submarines for 18 months at a time and, go to war and, things like that. Stay up till 3 a.m. fellowshipping. Oh no, sometimes women do that too. So maybe the years of a man are 120, but apparently women can live to 127. Don't know, wasn't there. All I have is this word here in front of me that says she lived to 127 years old. 2. And Sarah died in Kiriath Arba. That is Hebron. Okay, roger that. In the land of Canaan. And Abraham came to mourn for Sarah and to weep for her. I imagine 127 years. And they were together for a long time. Because it talks about how when they established the protocol of when they went out, you're my sister, not my wife. When it says when Abraham first started to leave the dwelling of his father's house. So you're talking like teenage years. So they've been together probably 110-ish years. That's a long time. But hold on a minute. Isn't Abraham 10 years older than Sarah? He is, because when Abraham was 100 years old, Sarah was 90 years old. So that should mean that Abraham, as of right now, is 137 years old. We'll find out. Tell me, Father. I don't know. You'll make it clear to us. 3. Then Abraham rose up from beside his dead and spoke to the sons of Heth, saying, I am a foreigner and a sojourner among you. Give me property for a burial site among you, so that I bury my dead from my presence. And the sons of Heth answered Abraham, saying, Hear us, my master. Oh yeah, Abraham is just a normal guy. Hear us, my master. You are a prince of Elohim amongst us. Bury your dead in the choicest of our burial sites. None of us withholds from you his burial site from burying your dead. So Abraham rose and bowed himself to the people of the land, the sons of Heth. And he spoke with them, saying, If it is your desire that I bury my dead from my presence, hear me, and approach Ephron, son of Sohar, guessing, for me. and let me have the cave of Machpelah, which he has, which is at the end of his field. Let him give it to me for the complete amount of silver as property for a burial site among you. And Ephron dwelled among the sons of Heth. And Ephron the Hittite answered Abraham in the hearing of the sons of Heth, all who entered the gate of his city, saying, No, my master, listen to me. I shall give you the field and the cave that is in it. I shall give it to you in the presence of the sons of my people. I shall give it to you. Bury your dead. So basically, Abraham's saying, I want to buy your cave, bro. And who's this guy? Ephron is saying, no, you can have it. I will just give it to you. And Abraham bowed himself down before the people of the land, and he spoke to Ephron in the hearing of the people of the land, saying, If only you would hear me, I shall give the amount of silver for the field. Take it from me and let me bury my dead there. So Abraham's like, that's cool. Thank you. I'm going to pay you. And Ephron answered Abraham, saying, Only the Hebrews, man. Let's write down an argument from 4,000 years ago. I'm still mad about it. I get very verklempt. Ephron was not a good guy. I'm still very mad about it. It makes me almost sugar nut. Somebody bring me some matzo ball soup. My master, listen to me. The land is worth 400 shekels of silver. What is that between you and me? So bury your dead. So he's like, look, man, the land is 400 shekels. This is very crafty. He's basically put a price on it without saying, give me 400 shekels. He's like, it's like, hey man, you can have my truck. I don't want to have your truck. I want to buy your truck. No, I'm just going to give you my truck. Dude, no, I want to buy your truck. Hey dude, the truck is only worth $500. You don't have to pay me $500. It's only $500. Okay? So, and Abraham listened to Ephron, and Abraham weighed out the silver for Ephron, which he had named in the hearing of the sons of Heth, 400 shekels of silver, currency of the merchants. Shekels are also the only currency to be used at the temple, which is why when Yeshua got there, he was really upset that the money changers were out there doing business on the Sabbath and was flipping tables over. So if you have one of those little bracelets that says WWJD, what would Jesus do? Picking people up by the neck and flipping tables over is totally within the realm of possibility. So remember that. You don't have to be a polo-wearing beta male in order to love Yeshua. It's okay if you are a polo-wearing beta male. That's cool. He loves you too. But you don't have to be. It's okay if you're a giant furry alpha male. That's also cool. Or a medium-sized furry alpha male, like our Levite over here in the kitchen. So, where are we? Shut up, chicken. Thus the field of Ephron, which was in Machpelah, which was before Mamre, the field and the cave which was in it, and all the trees that were in the field, which were within all the surrounding borders, were deeded to Abraham as a possession in the presence of the sons of Heth, before all who went in at the gate of his city. And after this, Abraham buried Sarah, his wife, in the cave of the field of Machpelah before Mamre, that is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. So pretty specific location. Thus the field and the cave that is in it were deeded to Abraham by the sons of Heth as property for a burial site. And that is the end of Genesis 23. We will stop there and we'll have a little talky talk and go over what we already talked about. So, there's some meaty stuff in here. Like this sets up one of the pivotal overarching themes of the New Testament. The only son sacrificed. That's a big deal. Like that's a huge deal. And something that is probably quite often missed because people don't read the Old Testament. They read the New Testament. But that is, the Abraham and Isaac is the archetype for the New Testament, God and Jesus, Yah and Yeshua. So, I think it's amazing that Yahweh shows up to Abraham, which we know Elohim, right? So you can't look upon the face of Yah and not perish. So basically, we had a temporal manifestation of God. Where have we seen that before? Oh, the New Testament. Cool. Except it's all throughout the Old Testament as well. And so that temporal manifestation of Yahweh, in my interpretation, my belief and way of thinking, is that was Yeshua. Yeshua comes to Abraham and says, take your son and go offer him as an ascending sacrifice to the Most High. Go burn your son. Abraham likely did not sleep at all that night, gets out of his tent early, grabs his kid and says, we're going. I think a lot of people would boast and say, I've got the faith of Abraham. Dude, I have no idea. I could tell you right now, standing here right now without the conviction of the Most High on me, hell no. No way, man. No way. No way. But it's easy for us to look back in time and go, well, Abraham was a psychopath. He was going to burn his kid and cut his neck. And then people use that as an inroad to say, well, look at the God of the Hebrews, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That God was brutal. That's not the God that I serve. I serve the God of the new covenant. Well, you don't have a new covenant without all the covenants that came before it. And by the way, the translation is renewed covenant, not new covenant. You can go do some research on the book of Hebrews and what a terrible translation that is, and how the guy who wrote it wasn't Paul. It was a guy who thought he was Paul, and it was written 400 years after the time of Christ from the Septuagint, which was missing half of Jeremiah, which is why it sounds kind of messed up when you read the book of Hebrews and it doesn't make much sense. But the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is the God of Yeshua. It is the God of Jesus the Christ, Yeshua HaMashiach. Okay. So Abraham did what God told him to do, even when it was a really messed up thing. He allowed himself to be moved by the Father. He literally took his only kid, which the Father provided, took him up on the mountain, was about to cut his throat. And then the messenger says, stop. Abraham, Abraham. It makes me wonder in our lives, how many times the Father just went, stop. I've been trying to stop you for years and you just won't listen. Just stop. And you stop and you're like, all right, I stopped. Now what? Now what do I do? You look around and go, I don't have to slit my kid's throat. There's a damn ram stuck in the bush over here. If I just stopped and looked around and let the Lord provide for me and now understand, this is just an analogy because Abraham was doing exactly what God told him to do. Precisely what God told him to do. But in our lives, how many times are we off going on our own thing, doing our own thing, and we should have just stopped? Stopped and looked around and said, aha, here is this provision and blessing right here in front of me. So we learned about that. And that was counted to righteousness as Abraham. What is righteousness? Righteousness is doing what God tells you to do, when he tells you to do it, how he tells you to do it. That is righteousness. So it is entirely possible for you at home to be righteous. The dog is alert. Okay. Sarah dies, right? And then Abraham is like, there it is. There it is. Then Abraham is like, I need a place to bury Sarai, Sarah, my wife. It's very important that you see here in 23, my master, no, listen to me, I shall just give it to you. Abraham was the man. Abraham had it going on. And he didn't have a 747. He didn't need a 747 because he was in line with the Father's will for his life. He was provided for and he was blessed. Materially, in this world, he was blessed. And that's something that I think we miss, and we were talking about that yesterday in the truck, is that if you just read the book, I mean, it's not like Abraham didn't have like a 40-car garage full of classic cars and Lamborghinis and, Mustangs and all that. He didn't need it. What he did have was actual wealth. Remember when he goes to get Lot, he's got 318 of his own guys, of people, servants of his house. He's got 318 guys kitted up with equipment. They go get Lot. They just beat the crap out of the 9 sovereigns. Right? These chickens, I'm telling you. You guys at home, you're like, chickens, they're not that bad. If only you were here. So Abraham is not a guy to be messed with. Not only does he beat the crap out of 9 kings and their armies, but on his way back with Lot, who he came for, he runs into Melchizedek, who was Yeshua, says me, gets blessed, right? So, and now he's got people tithing to him. Abimelech tithes to him and is like, dude, I'm sorry that Sarah's your wife. I didn't know. He didn't know because Abraham didn't tell him. Here, take a whole bunch of stuff. Just leave me alone. Let's be friends. And now here he is with Ephron. No, my master, listen to me. I shall give you the field and the cave that is in it. I'll just give it to you. So Abraham did what the Father told him to do, and it was counted as righteousness to him. We see that lesson over and over and over in Genesis here and in the Old Testament as it is. And it just makes me think when Yeshua says, if you love me, keep my commandments. Do what I tell you to do. Master, master, rabbi, rabbi, whose doctrine is this? This is not my own doctrine. This is my Father's doctrine. Where is that? The first 2/3 of the Bible. Really, the first 5 books. And so, I thought that was pretty good. Peanut Gallery. Yay! First time I've ever done this with other people around. It's interesting. So, Shabbat Shalom, everybody at home. Happy Sukkot. By the time you guys see this, it will not be Sukkot any longer. But hopefully I know that there's one lady, I won't blow you up and shout you out, but there's one lady that we've been emailing with that is absolutely convicted to keep Sukkot, and she is living on her porch behind her house while the rest of her family is in the house, and she's like, nope, I ain't doing it. So, lead by example. Yah will absolutely bless her, and when she's out there for 8 days, doing what the Father tells her to do, being righteous, following the commands of the Father. It's right there in Leviticus 23. We don't have to do that anymore. Read Leviticus 23. If you want all the blessings that come with Christianity, you need to understand all the obedience that comes with Judaism, the first part of the book, and understand that they're both filled with lots and lots and lots of traditions of man, which are pretty much worthless. At the best, they're good instruction on how to live your life, but they're not the instruction and teaching of the Most High. You jam those two things together, you get weirdos like us that have Revelations 12:14, a testimony of Yeshua. We believe that Yeshua is Messiah, and we keep the commandments because we're preserved as a remnant. We're told we'll be preserved as a remnant because that's what God does. He preserves remnants. But this lady will be blessed because she's out there on her porch leading her family by example, doing what the Father told her to do. I think that's awesome. So, with that, shalom.